Hey, it's Bronco from Apex Vaulting. Like I told you guys, I wanted to do a video with one of my athletes who's been training with us for quite some time, Shawn Keenan. Shawn, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about your background? How many years have you been at Apex? When did you start? And kind of your journey, because you're a high school senior now.
Mm-hmm. I've been here almost 4 years now. I started the end of my freshman year. I originally joined track to run distance. And I tried out pole vault. I came here.
Well, wait. Let's go back in time a little bit. How did you end up in track? Because what was the first sport that you were really supposed to do?
Well, I was supposed to be a swimmer, but I didn't really like swimming. So the next best option was cross country from there. I like cross country. And then from there, I decided to do track to continue. And my dad pole vaulted, so I was really excited. Got the opportunity to pole vault. And it was we didn't really have any boys pole vaulters, so it was a easier way to make the varsity team. And then I joined.
So your freshman year, I was coaching Alexis, who was a senior that year.
Yeah.
She was jumping 11. She ended up jumping 11.1, so she was doing pretty well. And then, what I always tell the story about is I remember your freshman year. How much did you weigh your freshman year?
Not a lot, 9,500 pounds.
Yeah, 95 to 100 pounds. And man, you're a beginner, high school freshman boy. And, you're just laboring down the runway, and I'm just trying to get you into the pit doing a swing. And I remember I told your parents 2 weekends in a row during states. I remember them getting you a private lesson your freshman year, and I was literally shitting my pants. I'm like, what am I gonna show you to get you over a bar? Because I was nervous. I mean, I don't know how everybody else feels when they're coaching, but I take it. One, I'm very grateful for everybody that I coach, but I take it as a huge responsibility. I'm trying to help this person jump a little bit higher. Whether that's 6 feet or 16 feet. And so I remember being real nervous for that private lesson because I'm what am I gonna do to help? What did you end up jumping your freshman year?
I think I cleared 8 feet once.
Okay, I thought 8.6, but all right.
I know, I definitely did do 8.6.
Okay, all
cleared
right.
Once.
Okay, all right. And so, a very humble beginning. Now walk us through, you get to sophomore year, what's going on sophomore year, and did you train, for everybody who's listening, did you train just during spring? How did you do your vault training?
So after I started, I was coming in once a week, and then I trained all through the summer into the fall, and I started my sophomore year. It was not great. I couldn't clear any bars when I started the season. I couldn't even clear 8 feet. But then pretty quickly I hit some jumps. I hit 9, 9.6. Outdoor came I hit 10, 10.6, 11.
Okay.
And then in my sophomore year, 11.
Yeah, so now end of your sophomore year, are we still the 95-pound guy? What do you remember?
I had a huge growth spurt. I was I grew 4 inches that year, or maybe more. I don't know what I weighed back then, but it was still pretty light.
Yeah. And so 8 freshman year, you're 11 sophomore year. And again, one of the things that I talked about in the video that I posted earlier in the week is I know coaches, we are teaching people how to vault, and so we are, I guess, somewhat responsible for your results.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I can't make this guy grow. This is just Mother Nature doing its work. So now take us to junior year. How did junior year end up?
When my junior year came, I started jumping a lot more, and then indoor, I think.
And this whole time, we're training year round.
Yeah. This is all through summer and fall, and the start of indoor, I quickly hit 12, I think, within the first month, and then I ended that season jumping 12.6. I continued training junior year. I ended with 13 in outdoor.
Okay, yeah. And at that point, do you remember last year how much you weighed?
It's probably 135, 140.
Yeah, and now you're 150, right?
Roughly, yeah.
Yeah. So again, physically developing, progressing, and now you're at what height?
15.6.
15.6. So dramatic improvement as a senior. Again, I think a large variable, and I don't want people to forget about this variable, is you're just physically developing.
Yeah.
And I think you're still physically developing, so I can imagine that as you go through college, you're going to continue PR as you continue to get bigger. what are some other factors to you? Like when you think back, like how big of an impact was training year round?
It's huge. I think the biggest improvements for me all came from the summer to the fall. That's why I always like have big PRs beginning of the season or winter. Like junior year, I went from 11 to 12.6 pretty fast. This senior year, I went from 13 to 15.6 like really quick. It's all from the summer to the fall.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny, like I was looking back at videos, like you have your like pole vault Instagram page, and I was looking at stuff like even in the summer, like you only jumped 13 at a beach vault in the summer, but you have lots of height. Like you were already displaying that like you could jump significantly higher. And so it was just, you know, it's interesting, like I think sometimes people don't see a PR and they think there's nothing happening, but there were definitely like, you know, technical things that we worked on that were helping prepare that as you got stronger, as you got faster, you would, you know, jump higher. What were some of the things that you felt like that were very important kind of through the summer, fall, going into this year to get you that 15.6 bar?
I think a lot of it was the takeoff, like starting from the beginning of the vault, because if I fixed my turn, fixed my swing, a lot of that wouldn't be effective unless my takeoff was good. And then the next biggest thing would easily be I started lifting a lot, which it conditioned me to run faster, heavier pulls.
So like let's talk about like one of the lifts. Let's just, you know, let's use pull-ups and deadlift as an example. Where were you deadlift wise when you started, and where did we end?
I started, my deadlift was like, I was doing like 200, 205 for a couple reps, and then the last time I went for one rep it was 315.
Okay, yeah. And again, obviously he's going through physical development just as a normal, you know, high school boy goes through. But in conjunction, he's doing the strength work. I mean, being able to do double your body weight in a deadlift, that's a really good indicator that you've got enough strength to be fast on the runway. What about with the pull-ups?
The pull-ups, I was doing like, maybe I could do 10 pull-ups in a row. And then now, I don't know how many you can do in a row, but I did a 75-pound pull-up.
Right.
Weighted, and that helped me so much.
Well, what would you say your weighted pull-up was probably like going into it?
10, 15 pounds maybe?
So big improvement there, big swing, you know, 10, 15 pounds to 75, which obviously, like, you know, when we talk about stuff like push-off, that's a big indicator, right? The stronger your lats are, the better your push-off will get. I think from what, you know, we're going through here, I think people could see, like, if you really want like big improvements, the technical and physical improvements that you make through year-round training, to me, I think it's critical. Yeah. I think when someone looks at me, you know, and they're like, hey, like, how can I have a monster year? You know, I mean, what would your advice be to that?
Well, it depends where you're at, but I think you have to approach it all from all sides. Like in the summer, I was really focused. I was sprinting, I was lifting, and I was vaulting, and I had everything lined up, like the right times of the week, so that I was getting the most out of each training session.
Yeah, and something that's really important, you know, I think especially with your senior year, like what you're talking about, consistency is key, right? For people who want to be like jumping near their PR or PRing, and because you really are having one of those like transformative years where it's like every meet is really, really good. Like you literally either like matched your PR or PR'd almost every single meet. I think after you jumped 15, you jumped 14.6, but then we had passed the 15.3, you missed that PR, and then from there it was 15, 15, and 15.6. So, you know, to have that, you need that consistent training. You have to try to eliminate as many variables as possible that can hold you back in results. And when we talk about variables, you know, I think a lot of people are just like, well, you know, I got to get on my big pole. And it's like there's so many more variables than just what pole you're on and what grip you have. Because even like with you, I mean, what were some of the poles that you jumped on this year in meets that created some of the PRs?
The most recent, the biggest pull I've been on is a 1570, and then earlier in the season, I think I was on like a 14.6, like.
Well, even wait, what were you on from a 5? Because this is the other thing too, is like planning out the season. You started out your meets from 5 left.
The first 2 or 3.
Yeah, so when you double PR, jumped 14 the first time, what pole were you on?
That pole must have been like I think it was a 14.7, like
No, you were on a 14-170.
I was on a 14.7?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I remember everything.
I don't remember
but yeah, and then 14.6. The first time you did that was from 6 lefts. What was that?
That was a 14.7, like 60, I think.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
60 or 65. I don't remember.
I think I got on the 65,
Yeah.
but I hit 14.6
Okay.
with the 60.
Yeah, and like you said, now at a 7, you've gotten on the 15-170. So those transitions of poles, again, when you're so consistent in your training, you're going to see that kind of consistent progression through the season. What was the biggest pole you jumped on in practice?
In practice, maybe like a 14.55, 60.
Yeah. So, and again, this is something that would take hours to kind of explain, I think.
Yeah.
But for people who are watching this, when you keep practice focused on technique, right? Like, because, you can't work on technique when you're trying to push, pull, and grip. And so if you're constantly pushing, pull, and grip, that's going to have a negative impact on your technique, right? So instead, we kind of kept the poles manageable and the grips manageable to work on the things that we felt were important for the next meet, And I think when you have that kind of approach, then naturally when you go to the meet, then you're just going to start to like get on bigger and bigger poles. Obviously at a certain point, like we knew where we were going to start pole-wise, we just didn't know where we were going to finish.
Yeah.
Like for example, like, okay, you jumped 14.6, you run the 14.7, 60, 65 that meet. First time we went to a 7, how did we approach that? Do you remember? Like, what was your first pole that you jumped on?
I think I brought the 15.45.
Right,
and then I just brought
that's
that
a 14.755.
to 70.
Right.
Because I had no clue. Yeah.
Right, and so we knew what we were going to start on, and we just went up 5 pounds at a time. I know for some people that are listening, that might be, they may not have that luxury of going up 5 pounds at a time. But the thing is, like, you really have to try your best to have some kind of series of pulls. If you don't, this is going to be very difficult. And also, like, I always think that's what creates a lot of danger is, like, if you only have, like, 2-3 pulls and there's a big gap, well, now you have to just, like, force it into the pit. I don't think you really want to be in that situation. I'm trying to see. What would you say to, I guess, like, the other topic, I did a video earlier in the week. I talked about being a smart pole vaulter. When we talk about, you want to be a good vaulter, you got to be a smart vaulter. What does that mean to you, and how do you think people can work towards being a smarter pole vaulter?
I think to me it definitely means being logical and thinking like step by step through the vault and not just running at it. Like that's what allows me to be so consistent is that even if I'm running a little bit slower that day, maybe I'm not feeling as well, I'm doing the same, like technique is still the same. I'm not trying to push the pull I was on maybe the day I was running faster. And then I can like kind of work through problems a bit better because if something goes wrong with my vault, I look at it, what's wrong, am I doing wrong with which stage? And then the next vault, I'm just thinking about fixing that. I'm not just attacking it again, you know what I mean?
Right, yeah, let's say we're at a meet together, it's like you take a jump, whatever went wrong, let's say it's the takeoff, we can talk about what went wrong with the takeoff and what you need to do better on the next one. It was kind of like interesting because somebody else that you trained with, Kashif, there was a certain point in the season, it was like, we were talking about, it's almost like he didn't know the play. It's like we were playing football. Yeah. It's like he didn't know the plays. I would give him instruction after a jump, and you could see he was kind of a deer in headlights and not going through it rationally. And so like when it just becomes an emotional thing, and we're just vaulting through emotion, sure, again, third attempt, it's for a PR or for the win, a little bit extra adrenaline, that can help. But if you're constantly just in that emotional state and that's the only way you're vaulting, you're not gonna be able to make the technical changes. So being smart and rational about it and adding that emotion on top, that is like now a killer combo.
And then when the big meets come, now you're thinking about it technically, but you're obviously running faster because it's like important or a third attempt, stuff like that.
All right, so we're gonna end with this last thing, all right? I'm a new pole vaulter. I want to jump as high as possible. What are let's say your top 3 tips for me? What advice would you give me?
Top 3 tips. I would say to start break it down from the beginning. Like you don't want to run from this. Like I don't know, 5 lefts from the start.
Okay.
And then just try to hit it because that creates bad habits. And now
So
you
work
lack
on
understanding.
technique, right? Yeah.
I would say you have to like think about every part of the vault, like everything that goes into it, like your run.
Right. How do I do these things?
I mean,
How many days a week should I train? How often should I train?
I would trade like in different forms. I would trade like 6 times a week. Maybe not vault 6 times, vault 3 times, 2 times a week.
Right. Okay.
And then I would over the summer I would vault 3 times a week, sprint twice a week, and then lift like 5 days a week.
So it sounds like I got to pole vault year round if I want to be good.
Yes, consistency is definitely most important.
And like you're saying too, you know, yeah, the 3 days a week you're vaulting, but you did say train 6 days a week. So obviously I got to do some form of strength conditioning.
Yeah, lifting.
You know, we can argue whether you should deadlift or not, but you should be doing something, some kind of lift.
Yes.
Any other advice you have for anybody out there who would like to have a monster year like you in PR, two plus feet?
I think, like you said, it's consistency. Like I might have started lifting and working like being more diligent in my practice and sprinting more and doing all these things over the summer. But most of that came because I never stopped training for my freshman year.
Yeah. So the more years and months you can stack training, you're gonna really improve. And I think even to kind of, again, go back to the summer, you know, watching that 13-foot jump, obviously I think we both knew you could jump higher, but you know, you kind of were getting like, I don't want to say setbacks, but like you weren't PRing in the summer. So you're putting in all that effort, but guess what? You didn't get down on yourself. You didn't like stop training for 2 weeks. You didn't like give up. No, you just put your head down, kept doing the work. And that consistency that you're talking about, that's what gets you through that. You got to have the discipline to be consistent regardless of the results. Yeah. All right, well, thank you so much, Shawn. We'll see you guys next time. All right, that was good.